Welcome back to the Zenith Pro EU Scrims. We are now back with Game 2. I do offer my sincerest apologies for Game number 1. There were unfortunately some severe technical issues we just couldn't defeat despite our best attempts. But it looks like we are now back and ready to go for Game number 2. I am here, I am Ab Summer, and I'm joined by the incredibly patient HighlandWolf.
It's okay, don't worry. I mean, we all have them. We all have bad days, but we get it sorted. We're back in game number 2, over on the Sandhawk now, and in this spice jungle, we will get to see a game happening. Let's hope so. And I'll tell you what, though, this game number 1, while we catch up all these teams dropping the playing path, was pretty interesting. We saw very south end zone, unfortunately missed it, guys, where actually KDV were a team that took the chicken dinner with 9 kills. The VOD on second, Ganina Power in third place, team push in fourth. Bloodline will be in fourth position. Scrims Farm in fifth. We do have Unicorns of Love CIS in sixth position and team in seventh there.
And briefly, during Game 1, although we were not streaming, we were watching, you mentioned that a lot of the teams are rotating.
Yes, so because of that southern rotation, we really had a lot of teams forced to rotate, and I was even surprised by the likes of X team for the north end, coming down to the south, west of the southern island, and that bridge being a choke point. So maybe we'll get to see it in the final game, perhaps some repeat what we saw earlier on, but going to have to see, of course, how these teams rotate in the second game, especially considering this is an interesting zone here, something we don't usually have to see on Sandhawk, where it goes towards the northeast.
And with the teams that we have at the moment, of course this is a PMCO based scrim, but these are well known and well developed teams, shall we say, so what can we expect from them in Sandhawk?
I think definitely, despite the fact that Sandhawk is a very aggressive map for players generally, this is an interesting zone, so I think we might see players rotate early on, perhaps see a couple of fights of that, but I think towards the middle of the game, perhaps we might see a little bit of a rest period before we get to the end game stages of a second match, and we start to really see these teams fight it out. Paradise Resort being perhaps one of these locations. Of course, the likes of Polar Ace will have to be careful of, with teams rotating up, and surprised also that no team are taking boot camp.
Of course, that is a big surprise with it being such a well-known hot drop, but what we can also see is that there is a lot of coastal areas with this zone, so some teams may be able to use that to their advantage.
Yeah, definitely have to agree, and I think the boats come into question, right, about rotating around the eastern coastline, even bound up to the northwest island in through the north end into the zone that way. I think especially if we do see the zone shift further up towards the coastline in the north, that's when it could get a bit dicey for some of these southern teams.
Of course, and we are watching Gaijin at the moment. They now have Team GLS just opposite. They are trying to get a knock there. They have lost one of their team members already, and that is Michi. So how do you think that from going from a 4-team to a 3-team, that can affect them going forward?
I think despite the fact they are a 3-team, they have the position really inside this play area compared to the side of GLA on the bridge here. They have a nice split, and they do have a Bobo there from Triangular Formation going to meet up towards the Sedweek. I think the smart idea is just to let this fight go, let GLA gather up their loot in this compound early on, even perhaps go towards the north in Tatmok. Surely, because this is so early on, we're only 4 minutes in, they don't have all the loot they want just yet, so Tatmok could provide that for them.
Of course, and then also we have Cal just to the north of that, so that may then allow them to get that rotation round. But what we are seeing at the moment is the X team getting a bit of action because they are near to the Unicorns of Love as well as Scrim Farm.
Yeah, Scrim Farm, of course, one of these teams that are super dominant, that we will come to expect be dominant into night's games. And I would be surprised to see how they play in the second game. Unfortunately, they did get slightly run down by, of course, KDV, the Chicken Dinner winners, in the first match. So their rotation's going to be equally more important, keeping their players alive, because their man disadvantage was the end kind of factor that killed them off in the first game.
Of course, and what we saw just a moment ago was X-Team Beg for Mercy using the height to his advantage, using that to scope in on the other players, scouting the local areas just to see what they could be coming up against, and then choosing to retreat. You know, he's not playing stupid. He's being really logical, really tactical, and I think that will allow them to do really well in Game 2.
Yeah, and I loved X-Team's positioning here as well. Onto the hilltop here to start the bootcamp gives them this vision advantage right over Kanina Power, and also Unicorns of Love Reprisal to an extent there. Perhaps even core division of Scrim Farm rotating up north, but this could be a little bit dicey for X-Team, considering you do have Reprisal on the flank side and Kanina Power in this line formation coming up the hilltop from several different points.
And looking at the map, despite the fact they're being fired at the moment, they are staying really tight together. They are not allowing any gaps to show, not giving any opportunities to the other teams to sneak in and get those kills. They are playing this really close, really tight-knit.
Yeah, Andy has been knocked, and Zombie, unfortunately, with the rest of the X-Team Beg for Mercy here, it does look a little bit dangerous. Andy, unfortunately, does go down, caught out of position, but they do keep Zombie up alive, so that will be definitely important versus AXA here, who is going to heal up. But with Unicorns that love, I say, behind, that is really that kind of tricky part of the team fight, and they do take Unicorns to love down, and now King of Power is up to their main focus.
And at the moment, we have X-Team Beg for Mercy. They are the last member standing at the moment with... I do apologise, there are two members standing at the moment. We have Nightmare knocked. We have Zombie on near enough below 15% health. So they need to just regroup and get their players up. And that is a grenade knock from Beg for Mercy against KP. And now we have Zombie down too. So it is Beg for Mercy just getting the revive on Nightmare at the moment. We have KP just pushing forward slightly, just staying close-knit, very tight. And KP, Gonzo, is just getting into the sniper tower, trying to get that height, which will really help them get these knocks. But Beg for Mercy is not going down, and he gets knocked. And now it's not...
here from behind.
Come on. And that is X-Team taken down. It was such an unfortunate position, but they were so open. They were on that hillside. So it really was going up against them, especially with two of their team members knocked.
Yeah, I love that they got that grenade knock up. It started to look a bit better for X-Team, but AXA was the part and the key play here for Kanina Power. On the flank side, they didn't expect that fourth member of Kanina Power to be there. They got the knocks up into a newly revived member of Beg for Mercy. Then, unfortunately, that was Cursons and then an X-Team for the second game. But looking around the Masters map, this zone has rotated further towards the east side, and Paradise Resort no longer occupying Polar Ace. Moved just now, considering that teams will be rotating up there in Scrim Farm, going to be likely that next team to occupy that compound. I think towards the south end, that's where we're going to see these congestion of teams. Perhaps UDR killers moving up the real deal, and even to an extent moving them into Dream Eaters up north.
Of course, and at the moment we are looking at the BetX Romania team. We have two of them up at the moment. We have Bam and Dexter. They have KDV, the winners from game number 1, just to their east. And we have some damage done to both Dexter and Bam at the moment, but they are trying to stay prone behind rocks. So they're trying to get that cover and just rethink their strategy going forward.
Yeah, I think that they do have this obviously man disadvantage. Difficult for them to really aggress this compound that KDV currently sits inside of, especially considering their situation right now. They've got Blank on the outskirts and then Press inside, but they do find a knock up onto Bam, and now with only Dexter alive, there's no real way to revive Bam. I think Dexter needs to look for a new position inside of this zone.
I totally agree. I think from the sounds of it, a smoke has just been thrown. Yes, it has. So it looks as though Dexter might be trying to get a revive now. So a member of KDV has just been knocked. We now have Dexter trying to move in. But again, they are open territory. That is a big thing about Sandhawk. It is mostly open. So it's not like, say, a Wrangler or Miramar where you can just hide in the building and hope for the best. This is a strategic game. All the players have to be at their very best to really stand a chance of progressing.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with the smoke line there from Dexter, and also that key knock onto Blank. But right as I say that, Dexter almost goes down, a sliver of hell keeping him alive, and that was a little bit dicey towards the end of that fight. KDE not quite able to find that, and because of that knock up onto Blank, that was the core reason they got Bam up, and they do survive with 2 members in retreat, like I suggest.
I think that is probably the best thing for them to do at the moment, just retreat. They are going up against a strong team, as we saw in Game 1 with them getting the chicken dinner. And I think it might be just an idea for them to just sit back for a little bit, just let some of the other teams come in, get a few knocks, get a few kills, and then jump in and steal them.
Well, Raiders wiping Codex off the map, the south of Paradise Resort, and they will be moving closer now to the next team, perhaps under Scrim Farm. We'll have to wait to see where we decide to rotate to. This third now phase zone did rotate a little bit further north, so these teams continuing to congest on the south side. I think the strong teams right now, obviously BFS and Bet, despite their man disadvantages, the positioning they have inside the zone much better than some of these squads still to make it inside the zone.
Absolutely, and with Bloodline now moving in, we are looking at possibly the Dream Eaters being able to gatekeep them as they are just inside that zone line. We also have the Real Deal just to the eastern direction at Camp Bravo, who may be able to then gatekeep UDR killers. And then on the western side, as you mentioned a moment ago, we do have Scrim Farm, who are near to Paradise. And then with Kanina Power just coming in, going north slightly, they may come up against them very, very shortly. But it looks so now we are just about passing midway through. We've got about 3 minutes until 15. It's starting to quieten down a little bit.
Yeah, we do see that kind of action there in the early game stages, and I think where we might see this action now play out again is UDR here on the eastern side of the map, approaching towards KDV, but also on the flank side, the Real Deal. Even ahead of that, Red and Bet perhaps might try to fight each other. So I think with this zone now, it will shift back in towards the centre with Polar Ace and GLA with the advantage. So this is going to be these congestion teams, the eastern side, going to be fighting for position.
I didn't expect that zone to change in the way it did. I thought it was going to go more north. And I think from the looks of it, a few other teams did as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think we predicted that zone to be going north. So this is a really tough zone, especially for this group of teams that were just rotating north this week. UTR, the Real Deal, KTV, they all need to make their way inside, but equally I think it's just for Polar Ace already inside, because they control one of these few compounds inside along with GLA, and for sure these teams moving in, they're going to be looking to try to take back those compounds in their own team.
And it looks as though the Real Deal are now firing shots, taking down a Depro Lord and HVVP. So at the moment, team number 6, the Real Deal, have 2 kills, and we have AZ with a little bit of damage, but the remaining players are full health at the moment, which is a bit of a surprise considering.
Yeah, and I think that the Real Deal, now that they take down Dream Eaters here, moving in, along with the help of Bloodline, they have the positioning on the edges, so they're one thing, there's no real team behind the cave. They're rotating in behind team will be Bloodline here towards the south end. They do stop in the compound, but Bloodline, they need to be careful. Polar is ahead of them. They got GLA to one side and KDV. The Real Deal, they're going to be fighting on the other.
So the Real Deal AZ has just taken down KDV Blank at the moment, and Hackshot is now firing towards them. We have, I believe, KDV are down.
Yeah, the real deal, they finish him off with a grenade. AC doing so much work for the real deal there. 3 knocks in total, and continuing that onto Bloodline with Kapahala also falling down. And now Bloodline look a bit vulnerable with GLA ahead of them. This is now 15 minutes into the game here, and this is where the zone's getting a bit tight for these 11 teams.
It is as if they know that 15 minutes are approaching, and that is when they just say, we're going to go for it now. And I did not expect KDV to be taken down. They were the winners of Game 1, and I thought they would really give the real deal a very hard time. But I think it just came to their positioning. They had the higher ground, and KDV were close together. So I think they were easy pickings, but it wasn't their fault. It was just they were pushed into that general area. And now we have the real deal throwing smokes just to get the revive. So Hackshot is now using a first aid kit, as is Spray. And now we have Polar Ace firing towards Clay GLA. And we have the real deal just trying to scope in towards Kanina Power.
Yeah, and these roads around the Sandhawk map and this zone are really going to play an important part in these final couple fights here, especially considering it blocks teams in terms of can be vulnerable from rotating where they have to like. Over 8 though, they're going to have to try to defend against GLA, because here comes Hardboy, Raxman and Junker. Safari there going to be in the flank side behind. So now, have to be so careful with Polar Ace. They look to try to finish off one. Waxman is going to not fall, and there will be Polar Ace looking vulnerable. Elusive will die off. Waxman's going to be finished off by the blue zone. Safari there as well. And members versus LA.
And we are looking at GLA Hardboy at the moment inside the building, just taking cover. Surrounded by team number 3, which is Polar Ace, and 17 Bloodline. So the teams are now pushing in together, especially now that the zone is closing. This is majorly open ground at the moment. There are no more compounds, apart from the tiny one to the eastern side that BFS have held at the moment. And now, as we can see, the zone has changed again. So we have GLA now needing to move north, as well as Polar Ace. We have Kanina Power just trying to gatekeep them at the moment. Tixie is on the very edge. Team 5, Kanina Power, are split at the moment, with Tixie holding the front, AXA at the back near to Red Reserve. So at the moment it could be very much all to play for, with KP now coming in to get some knocks, with Red going down. Let's move straight over to KP. Now we have Tixie being revived by Rob Dinney at the moment, with a member of Clay GLA pushing in, and is taken down by KP Gonzo.
And yeah, Power, they're looking so strong right now. They just had to gatekeep those teams across the road. They have done so. The real deal, they're busy fighting the squad of BFS. And now the real deal, they go down to BFS 30 and Spurple. And that will be now Kanina Power. Just 2-on-2 split here right now versus Red Reserve and BFS.
And Rob Dinney just took down near enough 3 members in the space of about 2 bullets. KP have been really consistent this game, and that shows with their 14 kills. That is nothing to be looked down at. They should be really proud of the way that they've worked through this map. They've stuck together as a team. They've gate-kept when they needed to. And they have made a real effort to take every opportunity that was given to them. But although BFS at the moment are inside that building, they are disadvantaged with the blue zone moving in. They are limited in where they can move. And now we are moving out. Purple is taken down by Rob Dinney, and 30 is taken down by the play zone. We now have 2 teams left. We have Kanina Power and we have Red Reserve. Red Victor is there. He's the last running member, and Lix's Holding Zone is going to finish him, and that is the end of game 2. Wow.
Yeah, Kanina Power, their positioning gets them that chicken today in the second matchup. The zone also going in their favour, I think we have to know. Unfortunately, hard luck fell to the teams like GLA and Polar Ace Zone moved continuously away from them and was actually in favour of the GLA. They'd steal that 5th place away from Polar Ace despite being in a hard rock position here. The Real Deal in 4th position, 3rd BFS and 2nd with Red Reserve, just hiding away there to secure that runner-up position.
Of course, and one thing that I think we can't not mention is KDV. They have finished in 12th place in game number 2. They did so well in game number 1, and I think they really had the ability to do well in game 2, but it looks as though the game was against them. And I think that's what it comes down to.
Right, I think their rotations, they were slightly late on their rotations versus, of course, if you look like, KDV in 12th position, then you go up towards Bet with 8th position. Bet moved earlier than KDV did, and they had a better position moving into the later stages of that game. So despite that zone moving away from both those teams, I think the later rotation unfortunately did cost KDV. I think moving into game number 3 in the Kendi is going to be about being proactive. Where's the zone going to go, and expect these hard rotations that they might have to be making ahead of time.
What we also saw was the teams using the height to their advantage. They were using this open terrain to scout the areas before moving in and giving themselves the best chance of trying to get in without having to take too much damage. And I think that is why a fair few of these teams did as well as they did. They were just using the map to help them improve their play.
Right, yeah, of course, definitely respect to BFS and Red Reserve, and I think we talked about that right earlier at the start of the game. BFS, they had amazing positioning alongside BetX moving into the later stages of the game, and because of their positioning, we see once again, they didn't have to move through the south end and the congestion of the teams. They had access into the final couple zones, phase 5, phase 6, and eventually phase 7, they're moving in towards the end. So they, with that positioning, secure himself those 4 kills with the help of the Real Deals. Desan securing himself the 3rd position.
And I think based on what we've seen in game 2 and what we saw in game 1, you know, there's no guarantee on any of these teams getting that win. They are really being made to work for it, and I think that really shows.
Yeah, definitely, and I think this is a very different level of game, of course. We have to obviously note that these are the PMCO teams, and we, yes, expect them to be patient and hold off perhaps in the edge of the zone, see where the zone will be going, think ahead of time, but also this is a scrim, we have to remember, right, as well, and perhaps we see teams trying it, them being a bit more aggressive, being a bit more dangerous, if you like, on their positioning to try hold off. So just these teams trying different things, perhaps, for obviously the upcoming PMCO finals.
Of course. Now, that was the end of game 2. We are going to have a short break, but we'll be back very shortly for game number 3. As always, this is the Zenith squad PMCO scrims. So stick with us and we will be right back.